Alright, I think we should take a quick look at some of the notation used with asymptotes in the rational function unit. So, let's say we're given a function, we can see there's a vertical asymptote at x equals 4. Remember, this is a line that the function sort of approaches, but it'll never quite reach. So it's like a domain restriction of sorts, where you say x cannot be 4, because there's an asymptote there. So what we might be asked is to figure out what's the equation of the function. We also know, just from looking at it, we can see there's a horizontal asymptote all the way along the x-axis at y equals 0. So again, the function approaches that line as it goes to really big or really small numbers. So one thing that we know then, if the asymptote is at y equals 0, the bottom degree of the rational function has to be greater than the top. So put this together, two pieces of information, our function must have been 1 over x minus 4. Vertical asymptote is coming from the denominator restriction, and the horizontal one comes from one of the 3 rules we went over in class. And just to note that basically what this is the original 1 over x function, but we've just shifted it 4 units to the right. Alright, so now that we know our function, let's take a look at something we call end behavior. So what we want to know is, as x approaches infinity, what happens to y? And we can see that we get closer and closer to 0 as we follow that red function down over to the right side. Now, if we went backwards, we said, let's approach 4. Let's say we want to do it from the positive side, from the right side. We put a little plus up top as a superscript. And what happens there is that y goes to infinity as x approaches 4 when we come from the right. Now, if we're coming from the left side, we'd put a little minus sign to indicate that as we approach x equals 4, y is actually going down now. So we say y approaches negative infinity. And lastly, we could say as x approaches negative infinity, meaning going to the left, we could say that y approaches 0. We could even put a little negative sign after it to say that we're coming from below. So all these new little superscript plus and minus signs basically tell you where you're coming from. So for example, this one up here says approaching 4, x equals 4 from the right side. This one says approaching y equals 0 from above, because it's positive. We're talking about y. This one's from the left, and the last one there is from below. Okay. So this is notation that's used in calculus courses, usually when you're learning about limits and end behavior. And it leads into a topic which you'll later do called something about limits at infinity. Okay, so we start by looking at it in pre-calculus so that you'll be more prepared when you get into calculus. Alright, so thanks for watching.